What's up guys, you're watching Tug TV.
And today we're going to discuss about Death, Damage, Destruction Volume 2.
So we are back from what was a really kick-ass gig. This is the second edition of the show. It was hosted by Extreme Underground India. The bands on the roster, from the local bands, we had Nihilus and Necrophilia. We had two outstation bands. From Pune we had Exaltation, KillKount from Indore, and of course the main headliner for this event was the Russian-based death metal band Dehydrated. We had an opportunity to interview all the bands, including the international act Dehydrated. We had an exclusive interview which will be up on our channel, so stay tuned for all of them.
The only band on the roster which we couldn't get an exclusive interview out of was Necrophilia because of a lot of time and technical constraints.
Coming down to the location of the show, this was hosted at the Indigo XP, which is based out of Koramangala. This place is owned by the radio channel Radio Indigo. It's a fairly good location.
Yeah, and it's very centrally located for anybody to actually come to the venue.
They had a good setup, there was a good aura, they had a promotion going on the drinks and cocktails being available at a promotional price of 91.9 rupees till 9:19 p.m. In case you're wondering what's up with all the numbers, the radio frequency that this channel is hosted on is 91.9 FM. So, free promotion for you, Radio Indigo. Take it and go. The show overall was approximately 100 strong crowd.
One thing which I really liked about this gig was the plan that they had planned it to the point that every band would get a minimum of 30 minutes of sound checks before the show. This reduces down all your technical difficulties to a lot of, minimalistic.
This really makes a difference to the overall show itself, because if you get rid of all the niggles beforehand, once you have a show,
it runs very smoothly.
And having been in situations ourselves where we've been cut off to 10 minutes for a sound check and a show, this goes a long way. So kudos to Extreme Underground. They spared no expense in the equipment. So it was a really wide stage. They had a Pearl drum kit with Roland triggers. This is unique because it's the first time I'm seeing triggers in a show.
And this actually helps the sound a lot. Because the guys can actually manipulate the sound to get exactly the kind of trigger sound what they want and also stand out.
So if a band needed a drier and tighter tone on the kick, they could set it up and save it as a preset. And if anybody wanted to take the traditional approach with a slightly rounded, deeper bass, they were able to set this up. As a result of which, when normal shows happen, you have one type of kick. Most of the times, the frequency of the kick drum gets lost, most often with the bass guitar. Exactly. But that wasn't the case here.
The addition of the bass drum triggers actually helps transitioning between band to band, so it makes it much more smoother. And another thing which I'd like to mention about this particular gig was the fact that the organizers had made sure that each of the band had both accommodation and food, because this was like a back-to-back gig for Dehydrated, obviously. So they needed time to come here, get well rested, catch a bite to eat, and then come on stage. This is not only given to the international band which was playing.
Even the local bands had it. The guys who came from Pune, KillKount, from Indore, and that Exaltation from Pune.
This kind of helps out bring that good feeling for all the bands, because they would want to perform in a gig like this.
Of course, the international band, but even if you think about the local bands, they would feel good. They would definitely consider coming back to Bangalore, and the next time you hear Extreme Underground India, you're going to think that yes, it's well organized, not like the last show that happened in Bangalore.
One more thing I would like to point out about this particular gig was the fact that they actually had art artists who were being promoted in the gig. Ankita Bhattacharya and Karthik Bharadwaj. And they were actually given their own counters so that they can exhibit their art. And also the fact that this was available for the public to pick up. These are the small things which kind of set your gig apart from others, rather than just focusing on music. You are bringing in another art form.
Yeah, so it served as a fusion, because art is of course art, and music is also an aspect of art. It is a form of art as well.
These have happened in bigger metal gigs, probably like your Bangalore Open Air and all those. But on a small scale,
on a pub level,
a pub gig,
this is the first
time we're actually seeing a lot of these things happen.
That's true.
And this adds to the uniqueness of these organizations.
Because this art exhibition was set up, the bands also had some merchandise of their own, and there was a certain section in the pub which became dedicated as an art exhibition. So people were engaged in looking at the artwork. There was, of course, the organizers also had their own merchandise, t-shirts, as you can see. Nihilus had his merchandise. The headliners Dehydrated had their merchandise. It was good. It felt eventful, you know.
The gates opened at just about 7:30ish.
Around.
Yeah, and the crowd started coming in. The first band to be on stage was Necrophilia.
They were the last band to sound check, you know, were the first band to take stage. A few leveling issues, a few
a bit of technical
issues,
difficulties here.
I think that was sorted out. They went on to play the set. Necrophilia is a death metal band. There are links in the description to everything that we're talking about, so feel free to check them out. A good show overall. The crowd was entering during this time. So
exactly. This is the time wherein the crowd was still yet to get settled down. Like everybody is like kind of trying to figure out the place and everything.
Plus, I think the leveling issues, you know, because they play a song and they had to spend the sound. These things happen. It's normal. Overall, you know, the crowd enjoyed the show.
It was a good start for something for what had to come.
And what came next was the second local band, Nihilus. So these guys, of course, a little more in terms of their influences and style, a little more tech death. And
also the factor being, they had a certain level of professionalism to them. Like we could see this both during the sound check time and during their performance on stage.
Props to the frontman of the band who was extremely interactive with the crowd. You would expect that a death metal band is a bunch of serious guys.
Yeah.
That wasn't the case over here. There was a lot of friendly banter with the crowd, good amount of interaction. The crowd was also enjoying it and, you know, cheering them on, supporting them.
Something which kind of helps you get that connection between you and the audience.
That's right, and they were able to establish that and pump the crowd up.
You could see that these were the guys who kind of pumped up the audience just to kind of get them ready for what was going to happen, like both in their setlist and the things to come. You could see that the crowd is like, you know, then getting energetic. A lot of people came, you know, to the front of the stage, or rather the stage rather than the seating area during their setlist.
It's very rare that you find a frontman who's able to abuse his way to the crowd but not, you know, offend them. So that's a talent.
Yeah, that balance.
Seriously, not everyone can do that. So good job there. The drummer of the band, Siddharth Manohar, and got a very unique style.
The patterns what he plays in and the fills are something which is very unique.
Definitely check them out.
Another thing that I'd like to mention here, Manu's sound, guitar tone, to cut through all of it, and the clarity in which it was giving was absolutely awesome.
It comes back to the fact that, you know, maturity.
Exactly.
And so this is what happens to a band as you gain experience. I think obviously he knows how to set his tones, so it cuts through. Those of you who are planning to form a band, these are little things you got to make note of. Nihilus is currently in the studio writing an upcoming album called Borealis. We look forward to that. They did give us an interview, so you can check that out as well. Next up on stage was the Indore-based band KillKount. Has to be kept in mind that this was the first time that they were playing in South India.
Technically not like the first time, but a first time show.
Considering that Nihilus had already got the crowd up and going, KillKount took it to the next level.
Exactly.
You know, they had a massive stage presence. Just the entry onto stage, their frontman entered wearing a Guy Fawkes mask. You know, the band was totally pumped. You could see these guys. They have a very typical, you know, death slam death style about their music, and they used it to full potential. You could see that the vocalist was extremely high on energy and he was covering the entire stage. Bass guitarist was on the PA, he was on the bottoms.
Yes.
Yeah, all the time. And there were instances when they entered the crowd and played, you know, vocalist has come down, people are moshing and he's playing in that mosh pit. That's brutal.
So another standard element of KillKount was actually their drummer. We did mention that Nihilus had a different pattern, but he had something which was very different from what I have actually seen. The way that he carried on over the show. There was one instance wherein he actually dropped the drumsticks, he still continued playing the same way. And there was one instance wherein the drumstick actually broke.
And he still played.
And he had timed it so perfectly, the fact that just during a single break wherein he takes it, he just picked up the other one and started playing. These are these small things wherein which attribute to the complete show, because if he had stopped playing, it would kind of sound really bad at that moment.
Yeah, it's a bummer for
exactly.
the crowd. There's nothing to stop this band, and that's what it was. It was an unstoppable force. Another key highlight of this band is their guitarist Divyanshu Gupta, sole founding member of the band KillKount. On the whole, if you look at the way they played, it doesn't seem like it's a band with a completely new lineup. You know, especially with, you know, Divyanshu is the founding member. When you hear Namai play, it's not like, you know, he had to pick up somebody else's pieces. He's probably
it sounds
added
as a complete unit.
Absolutely, that is what it sounded like. Dead Exaltation was the final Indian band for the night. Of course, most of these bands through the show have played a single guitar lineup, and that was the same for Dead Exaltation and KillKount, though they have two guitarists each.
Yeah, just one of them were actually performing. Right?
That's right.
Yeah.
So for KillKount it was Divyanshu, and for Dead Exaltation it was Mridul Singhal.
The way that both of these guitarists, in their respective bands played, it never actually made us think that
Absolutely.
They lacked an element or anything like that.
Also, probably because of the way their styles are, the rhythm being most of the time on bass guitar, and the way they set up their basses, we always had that wall of sound. You never felt like, okay, something is missing. Coming to this band, Dead Exaltation, I want to talk a little about them, because what really made them stand out was their influence in style. Death metal obviously being the core of all these bands. We discussed Nihilus having a technical
approach to
influence
music.
on their music. We discussed KillKount having a slightly, thrashy, slam death element in their music. When it came to Dead Exaltation, what set them apart was progressive elements.
The way that they used to transition from a pretty brutal riff to that mellow,
slow riff. Yeah, it hits the breaks, and this is something that got the crowd very interested. In their music, because you're listening to like massive typical death metal music. There's growls, there's distortion guitar, and suddenly it slows down. There's acoustic guitar,
and then like the bass handling the complete rhythm section while that is going on.
Absolutely. And then there is growls and double bass going on with an acoustic guitar, which makes a very, very unique sound. The bass guitarist here, because he had a very unusually intricate style of playing.
Yeah, when you look at his playing style, one, he was playing it a bit technically on the neck of the bass itself. So this attributes you a very different sounding when it comes to it, rather than picking it near the bridge. So this gives you a much more rounder sound. And the fact that the way he played with the fingers, it's not your typical bass player type. The kind of sweeping with his thumb and everything, that kind of really stood out.
You know that it's not a habit, because if it was a habit, you would have played all the songs on the neck. That wasn't the case. Do check out this band, whether you're a death metal head or not. If you're a metal head, definitely check this band out. And of course, the main event of the night, Dehydrated, took stage, destroyed it.
Damage,
destruction. So of course, let's talk about Dehydrated, the band. They are a fairly young band. They've been playing for around about a decade.
Exactly.
About 10-ish years. The lineup, of course, female growler.
Yeah.
This isn't
something that you see every day.
Yeah, you don't see it every day. But
And
what a sight it is.
The experience of kind of catching these guys live is something which is really awesome.
If we have to describe their music, the music is what the show is called. They have death metal elements in them. They're extremely fast, extremely furious and aggressive in terms of their sound. Their guitars also sounded great.
Yeah,
on
it just
stage,
sounded brilliant.
Great stuff. Really neat tone, and of course the vocalist Ira. She has got range and power
And sustainability.
like we haven't heard before. It's insane, it's a lot of skill. She sounded like an absolute beast. If you haven't checked out this band,
Yeah, you have to.
coming to the sheer presence of the band on stage, they're a 4-piece band, but they use the stage fully. There was a lot of interaction with the crowd. For the mosh pits, open up a circle pit, that was the signature style that she had, talking to the crowd. There were also elements where the whole band would sort of sit down and do this Slipknot-ish jump.
Yeah, jump.
That really worked well, because even the crowd knew what's going on, what happens. So you have like the whole crowd sit down, and then she gives the go sign and everybody jumps.
And also visually, for a bystander, this is a really insane sight. When you kind of look at like the coordination and the point at which each of these segments are put in.
Absolutely.
Those are the ones that actually build up to a really brilliant show.
We also had a bit in the show when the entire band was on the floor. Probably consider it the signature style. They're all on the ground, And they're playing.
flat out.
And they're playing like proper playing, not just playing a E note or something.
And also one of the fun factors here was the thing that the bassy was literally doing 360 degrees on his back.
Playing. I would say it was a really lively show. The key highlight of this band, apart from the music, was the sheer energy that they possess. Let's not forget that they're playing back-to-back shows. They had played in Shillong the day before, I think it was.
It was literally the day before.
Yeah,
and they had another show even the day before that.
Absolutely. So they're playing back-to-back shows. You're flying across the country. You come here, and once they got on stage, they were massive. They were owning it and killing it. This show that took place was in support of their Extreme Tour 2017, which is of course currently going on. They were also, in support of their current album, the last album that they released, Awake in Era. There's a link in the description. You should check that out.
The show came to an end probably around a bit past 12:30ish, and trust me, the gig stood up to its name.
I think the fact that when you plan an event properly like this and when it goes off so smoothly, you also have a sense of satisfaction. That is what we received at the end of this gig, because we came into the show a little earlier than the actual crowd did, so we have seen it, from an organization level, and from there to midnight when everything goes off, it was a really smooth sailing engine. Full points here. I think this is probably one of the best organized pub gigs that have happened.
Yeah. And also one of the best that we have been to.
Yeah.
So Extreme Underground India, hats off to you guys.
They've got that brand name now, if the next time there's a gig which has Extreme Underground India on it, rest assured it's going to be a good show. If you're a band, and you're looking to play for a gig which is well organized, definitely reach out to this organizer. Anyways, that was Death, Damage and Destruction Volume 2 that has taken place on 3rd of December. A really great show. Where you at this gig? What did you think about it? Please let us know in the comments below. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up. Do subscribe. And as always,
stay metal.